The courtroom was thick with silence, the kind that pressed down on your chest and made breathing feel like a task. Every seat was filled, every eye was fixed on the man sitting at the center. Logan Pierce, a former police sergeant in a wheelchair, dressed in his old uniform, medals glinting against the cold fluorescent light. By his side sat Ranger, a stoic German shepherd with the calm, steady gaze of a soldier who had seen too much. To the others, Ranger looked like any other canine, disciplined, loyal. But to Logan, he was more than that. He was family, a brother, a lifeline. Logan's hand trembled as he adjusted the leash. The judge stared down from the bench, his voice echoing in the courtroom like a distant storm. The judge looked down and said, "Sergeant Pierce, as per protocol, the military has requested the reassignment of K9 Unit Ranger to active service. Do you have anything to say before I make my ruling?" Logan swallowed hard. The words were buried somewhere beneath years of pain, guilt, and the crushing weight of injustice. He began, voice raw and cracking. "Your Honor, he's not just a dog. Ranger saved my life more times than I can count out there. In combat, and in here when I couldn't even face my reflection." His voice grew stronger with every word. "You can't reassign that. You can't break that bond. Please, don't take him from me." The courtroom held its breath. Some in the gallery wiped at their eyes. Others simply stared, motionless, as the silence thickened. Then, before the judge could respond, Ranger stood, and everything changed. Years ago, Logan and Ranger had been inseparable, assigned together in a special tactical unit overseas. They had cleared buildings, tracked threats, and protected civilians. Ranger wasn't just a tool of war. He was a savior. The time he dragged Logan out from under fire. The time he detected an IED seconds before it exploded. These weren't stories. They were memories etched into Logan's bones. And then everything went wrong. A mission compromised. Bad intel. Lives lost. Logan was blamed. Court-martialed. Stripped of his rank, thrown into a civilian prison for a crime he didn't commit. Ranger was reassigned. Logan never got to say goodbye. In prison, Logan spent years haunted by those final moments. He didn't care about the medals anymore, or the uniform, or even the verdict. He only cared about Ranger, the dog who never judged him, the partner who never let him down. When new evidence surfaced, proof of the real culprit, Logan's record was cleared. But the military had already claimed Ranger again. Now Logan was fighting for something more than freedom. He was fighting to bring his family back. As Ranger stood, his ears perked and body rigid, the energy in the courtroom shifted. The leash slipped from Logan's hand. Ranger stepped forward, barking a sharp, piercing sound that startled everyone. Logan called out, "Ranger, heel," but the dog didn't listen. This wasn't disobedience. This was instinct, the kind that had saved lives. Everyone in the room turned toward Ranger. He stood facing the courtroom doors, growling. Not a snarl of anger, but a warning. A bailiff moved to intervene and muttered, "It's just noise." The crowd, the tension. Logan shook his head. "No, he senses something. He never reacts like this without a reason." The judge paused, the gavel in his hand motionless. Then came the sound, a low, metallic click beyond the doors. Ranger barked again, louder, urgent, purposeful. Another sound, a creak. The door slowly opened. Everyone tensed. A man entered, cloaked in a heavy coat, hood up, hands in his pockets. His face was hidden. Ranger growled deep and low. Logan could feel the tension through the leash. A bailiff shouted, "Identify yourself." The man replied calmly, "I'm here for the dog." The room erupted into chaos. People stood. The judge shouted for order. Ranger snarled, pushing against Logan's grip. Logan yelled, "Who are you? What do you want with him?" The man stepped into the light, revealing cold, empty eyes. He said, "He's special. They want him back. They always wanted him." Behind the man, two more figures appeared, shadowed, armed. The judge screamed, "This court is adjourned." The bailiffs moved in. Ranger barked furiously, lunging forward, his body pulled taut with tension. The man smirked and said, "We're not going anywhere, not without the dog." Logan clenched the leash. "Then you'll have to go through me." The figures advanced. Ranger's barking reached a fever pitch. One of the men raised a device. Something blinking. Metallic. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Bomb." The room froze. The judge ordered, "Get them out." A bailiff grabbed Logan's wheelchair and said, "We're moving you." Logan barked back, "No, Ranger won't leave without me." More security poured into the room. Guns drawn, shouts filled the space. And then Ranger did something no one expected. He broke free. He lunged straight at the man with the device. The room exploded into motion. The assailants were taken down. No explosives, just a bluff. But the intent was clear. Ranger was the target. Logan sat in stunned silence as medics checked him. Ranger limped over to him, his fur singed but his eyes sharp. Logan whispered, "You did good." He hugged him close. The judge, shaken but steady, made his ruling. He said, "Sergeant Pierce, Ranger is yours, permanently." A roar of applause filled the room. Justice wasn't just served. It was witnessed, and this time, no one could take Ranger away. The room was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, not from the air but from the purpose. A single metal table stood between Logan and the two agents who entered without introduction. Dressed in civilian suits, but wearing government tension like a uniform. Logan sat straight-backed, eyes sharp, Ranger lying silently beside him, ears perked, eyes never leaving the door. The older agent tossed a manila file on the table. "You caused quite a mess in that courtroom, Sergeant Pierce." Logan didn't flinch. "You mean we exposed something you weren't ready for?" The younger agent remained standing, arms crossed. The older one opened the file, spreading out surveillance stills. Logan, Ranger. The courtroom chaos. One image showed Ranger lunging at one of the intruders. "Let's not play games." The older agent said, "You recognized something out there. So did the dog. We need to know what." Logan looked down at Ranger, who remained calm but alert. "He's trained to respond to danger. He's never wrong. That's all you need to know." The younger agent stepped forward, pulling a chair out sharply. "What we need is full disclosure. The attack wasn't random. It was connected to something bigger, and you know it." Logan's voice was steady. "I don't know anything yet, but I've seen the pattern before. People watching us, people trying to separate me from Ranger. And now, they're making moves in broad daylight." The agents exchanged a glance. The older one slid another image forward. This time a photo of a masked attacker from the courtroom. "He didn't survive, but we ran prints. He was military, former intel. His record, clean until 2 years ago when he dropped off the grid." Logan frowned. "A ghost." The agent nodded. "And not the only one. These aren't just hired thugs. They're trained, funded, and organized. That kind of coordination doesn't happen without help from inside." Silence. Then the door opened. A third man entered, handcuffed, bleeding from a cut across his brow. One of the surviving attackers. "You brought him here?" Logan asked. The older agent stood. "He asked for you." The restrained man looked up. His voice was ragged but urgent. "They lied to us," he rasped. "They said the dog was dangerous, that he wasn't natural." Logan stepped forward slowly. "Who lied to you?" The man hesitated. "Project Oracle. They told us it was shut down, but it's still active, underground, funded by private contracts." The agents froze. "Who's running it?" Logan asked. The prisoner shook his head. "We never saw names, only code words, call signs. But one kept coming up. Harrow." Logan's fists clenched. "Colonel James Harrow." The agent turned to him. "You know him." "I served under him," Logan replied coldly. "He signed my discharge papers." The room fell into heavy silence. Whatever truth Logan had been chasing It was no longer a shadow, it had a name. The facility was buried beneath a mountain range. Off the map, off the record, Logan and Ranger were flown in under high security. No names were exchanged, just clearances and silence. As they passed through layer after layer of biometric doors, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a vault of ghosts. Ranger remained close, his eyes scanning everything, as if he remembered it all. Dr. Emily Kane greeted them inside the briefing chamber. Her lab coat was spotless, but her eyes were tired, like someone who'd seen too much and told no one. "Sergeant Pierce," she said quietly, shaking Logan's hand. "And Ranger, you probably don't remember me, but I worked with your unit back in Logan nodded slowly. "You were with the behavior division." She glanced down at Ranger, then back up. "Not just behavior, something deeper, something we never fully understood." She dimmed the lights and activated a series of projection screens. Dozens of dogs, military canines, flashed across the walls. Data streams, thermal scans, neural activity overlays. "You and Ranger were part of a classified initiative, Project Oracle. We thought we could enhance canine sensory input through deep environmental imprinting. Teach them to read things humans couldn't, emotions, intent, even patterns in chaos." Logan's jaw tightened. "You were trying to create psychic dogs." Dr. Kane didn't flinch. "We weren't sure what we were creating. Some dogs broke, some disappeared. Ranger adapted. He didn't just survive, he excelled." She pulled up a video feed. Ranger during a mission, stopping cold in front of a civilian just before the man dropped a hidden explosive. "This isn't just instinct," she whispered. "It's something more, and others know it, which is why you were framed, why Ranger was taken." Logan turned to Ranger, who was focused entirely on the footage as if remembering. "Why now?" Logan asked. "Why are they coming after him again?" Kane hesitated. "Because Project Oracle was never shut down. It went underground. And someone in that program wants Ranger back." Logan stepped forward. "Then give me a list. Every name, every handler, every mission file." Kane looked him in the eyes. "If you go down this road, there's no turning back." Logan nodded once. "I already turned back once. I'm not doing it again." Behind him, Ranger let out a low, steady breath, as if he knew the road ahead. The hunt had begun. The list Dr. Kane handed over wasn't long, but every name on it came with a classified red stamp and a reputation for silence. Logan sat at a motel desk hours later, spreading out the files like pieces of a shattered past. Photos of former officers, scientists and shadow executives. Some were marked deceased, others missing, and a few still active, buried deep within private defense firms or ghost departments. Ranger sat by the door, ears twitching at every creak of wind. He was more restless than usual, as if the silence itself was tainted. Logan's finger stopped on one name: Colonel James Harrow, the man who had signed off on Logan's dishonorable discharge, the man who had ordered Ranger's reassignment, and the man currently serving as a senior advisor for Axiom Defense, one of the top military contractors in the country. Logan whispered, "You did this." He closed the file slowly. Everything made sense now. The false reports, the missing footage, the sealed transcripts. Harrow had orchestrated the entire thing, not to punish Logan, but to gain full control of Ranger. Later that night, Logan broke into a secured satellite relay compound. With Kane's codes, he accessed a hidden transmission hub, emails, orders, surveillance files, a full network of private communications between Harrow and other agents still active. And at the center of it all, references to a reactivated mission. Project Retrieval. Not a rescue, a recovery of Ranger. As Logan exited the facility under moonlight, headlights swept across the trees. A black SUV. Too late. Gunshots rang out. Logan ducked, rolled behind the fencing. Ranger charged ahead, his body a blur in the shadows. Screams. A weapon drop. Logan fired back, taking down the front tire of the SUV. The attackers fled, but not before Logan recognized the patch on one of their sleeves. Axiom Defense. The message was clear. Harrow knew, and the war was no longer in the shadows. It was coming for them both. The safe house didn't feel safe anymore. Logan stood at the window, watching the rain distort the glow of streetlights. Every shadow felt like it carried a rifle. Every silence felt like a countdown. Ranger paced, ears twitching. He hadn't rested since the ambush outside the relay station. Neither had Logan. A knock at the door made them both freeze. Logan pulled his sidearm and approached slowly. One sharp bark from Ranger confirmed what he already felt. Someone was out there, but not a threat. When Logan opened the door, he was stunned. It was Officer Dana Rivas, the bailiff from the courtroom. "I don't have much time," she said, stepping inside. "They know where you are. You need to move now." Logan locked the door behind her. "How did you find me?" "I didn't." Ranger did. She looked down at the dog with a tight smile. "He tracked me from the courthouse. That's how I knew you were still fighting." Logan nodded. "Why are you helping us?" "Because I saw the look in your eyes, and his." She gestured toward Ranger. "And because the same people who burned you, burned my brother. He was in Project Oracle too." A silence passed. Then Logan said, "We have to reach a man named Elias Vaughn. He was Harrow's second in command until he disappeared. He's the last link to exposing everything." Dana handed Logan a flash drive. "Coordinates. Vaughn's last known safe house. But it's not easy to get there." Logan smirked. "Nothing about this has been easy." Sirens echoed in the distance. "Closer." Dana moved to the window. "They're here." Logan loaded his weapon and clipped Ranger's leash. "Then we move now." The trio exited through the back alley, slipping into the shadows as black SUVs turned the corner, lights flashing through the rain. What had started in a courtroom was now a full-blown manhunt, and Logan Pierce had no intention of running. He was hunting back. The desert air was dry and sharp, like it remembered pain. Logan and Ranger stood at the edge of a long-forgotten compound buried in dust and silent. The coordinates Dana had given them led here, an abandoned military training site, known only to those who had once called it hell. "This is where it all went wrong," Logan muttered. The night was still. Ranger sniffed the air, his posture tense. Memories surged. Gunfire, screams, betrayal. This was the place where Logan's team had been ambushed, where the footage had been lost, where the scapegoating had begun. But Logan wasn't here for ghosts. He was here for truth. He entered the main bunker, flashlight sweeping across walls, scorched by time. Ranger followed closely, ears twitching, every muscle poised. In a locked crate beneath the floorboards, they found a drive marked with a symbol. Project Oracle's insignia, partially burned but unmistakable. Back in the Humvee, Logan powered it up. The screen lit up. The real footage. His team entering a civilian area during a recon mission. Then the explosion. But unlike the official report, the blast had been triggered remotely, not by Logan's team but by an external satellite-linked detonation. And then came the voice. Colonel Harrow. In the background of the audio log, Harrow could be heard authorizing the operation as a controlled test. Logan's team were the test subjects. They killed them for data. Logan whispered. Ranger let out a low growl. He remembered. Logan copied the files to a secure drive, his hands shaking not with fear but rage. "This is it," he said. "This ends now." Behind them, headlights appeared on the horizon. A convoy. They were no longer hunting. They were being hunted. But this time, Logan wasn't walking into a trap. This time, he had the evidence. And he had Ranger. The broadcast van was hidden behind a cluster of trees overlooking the Capitol building. Dana sat at the console, fingers flying across keys as she tapped into a restricted military feed. Logan stood behind her, the encrypted drive in his hand. Inside it, everything: footage from the compound, Harrow's voice, the classified memos, and proof that Logan's discharge was fabricated. "This is going out live," Dana said. "You sure about this?" Logan glanced down at Ranger, then up at the screen. "It's the only way." The feed went live. Across the nation, televisions flickered, phones buzzed. A message appeared. Operation Oracle. The truth. And then Logan's voice filled the air. He sat before the camera in his uniform, medals shining faintly in the light. Ranger sat tall beside him. "My name is Logan Pierce. I was dishonorably discharged for a crime I didn't commit." The truth was buried to protect a secret program, one that turned loyal canines into test subjects. Ranger and I were among them. He laid out the timeline, the betrayal, the death of his team, Harrow's role. Dana switched feeds.
showing the footage. Harrow's voice authorizing the experiment. Ranger growling at the moment the explosion was remotely triggered. Data overlays proving tampering with mission logs. Viewers across the country were glued to the screen. Outrage grew. Logan continued. We were used, labeled dangerous, hunted, but we survived. And now we fight. Not just for justice, but for every canine handler. Every soldier discarded by a system that saw them as expendable. Suddenly, tires screeched outside. Black SUVs again. They're here, Dana warned. Logan nodded and stood. Let them come. But before the agents could breach the van, something unexpected happened. A crowd had gathered. Veterans, dog handlers, journalists, civilians, and they were blocking the path. Someone yelled. We saw the feed. An agent hesitated. The crowd surged forward. Cameras flashed. The government's response was now being watched by millions. Then a voice boomed from behind. Stand down. It was General Trask, Logan's former commanding officer. Long believed to be retired, he stepped forward. Medals heavy on his chest. I watched that feed, he said to the agent. So did the Secretary of Defense. Sergeant Pierce is telling the truth. He turned to Logan. You were betrayed. That ends today. The agents lowered their weapons. The crowd erupted. Logan looked to Ranger. For the first time in years he smiled. Justice wasn't a hope anymore. It was real, and it had a voice. Months had passed since the broadcast changed everything. Logan Pierce no longer walked in the shadows. He stood beneath open skies, beside the dog who had never left his side. Ranger, now grayer around the muzzle, still carried the same fire in his eyes. Together, they walked through the gates of the newly established Ranger Foundation, a sprawling facility dedicated to retired military and police canines, offering care, rehabilitation, and most importantly, honor. Children played in the fields, veterans volunteered in the kennel, murals painted the walls with stories of service, loyalty, and sacrifice. In the main hall, a bronze statue stood tall, Logan and Ranger side by side, forever immortalized. Inside the building, a film crew prepped cameras. Logan sat down for an interview, Ranger resting at his feet. Why did you come back? The interviewer asked. Logan smiled gently. Because silence protects the guilty, and because stories like ours, they give people hope. He paused, then looked down at Ranger. I was just a man, but he was the reason I kept going. He knew when I was broken, and he never gave up on me. The camera zoomed in. What would you say to the next generation of handlers? Logan leaned forward. Trust your partner, speak up, and if the world turns its back on you, don't stop fighting. Because sometimes all it takes is one loyal soul to change everything. The screen faded to black, then words appeared. In honor of every canine who served, and the handlers who never let them go. Ranger barked softly, tail wagging, and the legacy lived on.